It is time. Can you believe it? Back from the dead. For real, though. Not kidding. I finally managed to make it back here to the land of the living. Thank you very much. I am alive. To the chagrin of some people. All right. That's all right. What is up, everybody? Yeah, episode 401 inside the BJJ. It's good to be back, man. I've had a super busy time. And you know what I did was this morning, I scheduled an interview on Sunday morning, but not this Sunday morning. But I got it in my head last night, like that last thought before you kind of fall asleep. Oh, I need to get up in the morning and go get the studio set up because I'm going to do an interview. And so I'm like, okay, I got up at 6, kind of went through my morning routine, and I'm pretty slow now. Like I am not fast in the morning anymore at all. But I kind of moseyed about, got my motor going, did some things I needed to do, packed up my gym bag, knocked all that stuff out, and got down here, got the studio set up, and was feeling good, right? And it's like 8:05, and I'm like, I'm supposed to meet this guy at 8, and he's still not here. So I'm like, what is going on? I'm not positive. And so I look at my calendar, and I'm like, oh man, dude, that's next weekend, not this weekend. So I'm here. I got everything set up. I might as well do an update. Lots of things have gone down. The reason why I say I'm resurrected is I got freaking crazy sick at the PGF. I'll tell you about that. Really threw a monkey wrench in all the things that I thought I was going to do. I made a trip out to Stockton. I was supposed to do Subversive, but that did not work. Also got an episode of The Bullpen, and was a guest on Grapplers Talk podcast hosted by Dave Pearson, who's one of my OG training partners. So I'll tell you all about it right after a word from our sponsor, Salt.
Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in Salt Electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
You can use the discount code inside BJJ15 on that to save 15%. I've been turning lots of people on to Salt. I mean, one is because I'm a shill, right? And two is it actually works pretty well. And it took a couple drinks to get used to it because your palate for like electrolyte drinks is so tuned to sugar that when it gets that salt, it's like a little sprinkle of just like zzz, like that. I can't describe it in words. I could just make the sound zzz. You get that little zzz, and your tongue almost like shrieks back, like, what is this? But and you take another drink and your tongue's like, oh, this is not bad. And you feel quite a bit better. So highly recommended. Check out saltelectrolytes.com. We just had Riley on a couple shows back, and he was the main guest. We talked about how he started the company up. It's actually a pretty cool story, man. Just a dude with an idea who actually did it. And congrats to them. They were one of the sponsors at PGF Season 7. It was really cool to see them out there. So check them out. So anyway, I've been up to a lot of stuff, and I'm just going to catch you guys up on some of it. One is, so I took a trip out So I had a real busy 30 days planned. Okay. I was going to make a quick trip out to Stockton, like get in on a Friday night at 11, be there Saturday, come home Sunday morning. Okay. So this was the plan. And this is what I was essentially doing. And then the following week, I needed to leave for PGF, and I would be in Las Vegas from Saturday to Saturday. I would come home on Sunday. I would have that week home. And then the following week, I was going to fly out to Rancho Cucamonga, which is the Southern California area. I probably would have flown into not Burbank. There's another airport out there. I can't remember the name. I would have flown into that airport. Pomona, maybe that's what it was. I can't remember. Anyway, and then do the Subversive event and then come home on Sunday. I was going to head out there on like a Wednesday night, work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come home Sunday. That was the plan. And so I took my trip out to Stockton, nailed that, had a great time. It was short, but it was sweet. We did some promotions. Big congrats to Dennis, Mike, and Jessica out there on the promotions to brown belt. They're really killing it. I got a great squad out there. It's a really good setup. We have 2 really great black belts who teach every week. We have Chris Vickers, who, if you don't know who he is, you got to check him out. You could follow him on Instagram. He's Grind for Glory, and it's the number 4. Highly motivational dude. I've known him since blue belt, met him because my cousin Matt, Big MF, one of the co-hosts, did a tournament, and Chris was the first guy in the bracket. And my cousin, Big MF, he's always angling, and he was listening real intently to the rules. And usually he's fucking around. If somebody's talking and giving the instructions, he's looking around and, making funny faces and saying crazy shit. But he was listening intently to the rules, and that kind of caught my eye. I'm like, this is interesting. So Sergio Silva goes through the rules. Any questions? No questions. Tournament's going to start. The bracket's going to start. And Matt leans over to me and goes, if he puts me in a sub from guard, I'm going to pick him up and slam him. And I'm like, what? Nah, dude, you'll get DQ'd, right? And he goes, they didn't say that in the rules. They didn't say you couldn't slam. So I'm going to take my shot. The worst they can do is give me a warning, but I'll get my slam in. And I'm like, oh my God. So sure enough, and Chris Vickers is, he's got a great jiu-jitsu game. He's got a great guard. And he, is on, I can't remember how many dead orchards he has in competition. I might be wrong. I don't want to gas it up too much, but I also don't want to downplay it. So I think it's over 100 though. I think so. I could be wrong. Somebody can let me know if that's right, but I think it's over 100 dead orchard submissions. So needless to say, Chris has a very, very good guard. So sure enough, maybe a minute and a half into the match, Chris slaps a triangle on Big MF, and Big MF's eyes light up. He steps up, picks Chris up, and you could see me on the side going, no, 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 no. And bam, slams him on the ground. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that, bro. Sergio Silva, Professor Sergio steps in. Denny Prokopos was reffing the match, and everyone's like, no, 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 no. And then first thing out of Big MF's mouth, you didn't say we couldn't slam in the rules meeting. You didn't say it. You didn't say it. So they're like, okay, warning for you. Don't slam. And then I think Chris tapped him right after that. But that was how I met Chris. And, a lot of situations like that, you end up having really bad blood with somebody for that kind of thing, right? They kind of like really dislike you for legitimate reasons. But Chris did not. Chris was super cool, and he came by and chatted with us. And, ever since then, I'm like, this guy's freaking cool, man. I like this dude a lot. And so that's how I met Chris out in Northern California. And I've known him for quite a while. So he's a black belt under Alex Kanders out in 10th Planet Walnut Creek. Chris teaches on Monday nights. And on Wednesday nights, we have Bree Stick, who teaches. And Bree is a black belt. She's a highly accomplished competitor. was on the USA wrestling team, went to Kazakhstan. She is an MMA fighter. She is a Medusa champion. She's very, very talented, and she teaches on Wednesday nights, and it's been a real good situation out there. The development of the team is just really spectacular, and Mike and Dennis and Jessica have really gone above and beyond and have really grown as martial artists, because it's not just grappling. It's not just like I can pass your guard and choke you. I don't view it that way. Now, I know the sportification of it that's happened in recent years, it's making it that way. And look, I train Nogi Jiu-Jitsu all the time. I have all kinds of guys that compete and all that stuff. I love it. I'm not against it. But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that Jiu-Jitsu is a martial art. And that means you're trying to be a martial artist. You're not trying to be a black belt in grappling. If that makes sense, you want to be a high-level proficient grappler for sure, but you want to be a black belt in the martial art, right? And that's how I view it. And it's not a perfect explanation, because it's really hard when you have this activity that serves two purposes. And both of these purposes, they're not, they don't run towards each other. They move away from each other. So the more sportsy it gets, the less martial arts it gets. And the more martial arts it gets, the less sporty it gets. And in recent years, we've seen a big swing towards the sportification side of it. And that's okay. I think that makes sense. And in a way, I think it might be a natural development of a martial art, because you go from, and there were super fights that happened for hundreds of years. It's not like that's a relatively new thing. But when you had the UFC, it was pitched as which fighting style, martial art versus martial art. We're gonna have this test bed. And I think a lot of those dudes were real tough, but I also think the Gracies kind of knew that jiu-jitsu was already proven to them. They were already working in their own lab in Brazil and had figured this stuff out. But they brought it and presented it in an amazing way in America. And Americans weren't quite ready for it yet. We were somewhere stuck between boxing and professional wrestling. And, college wrestling was popular with college wrestlers and people who wrestled. But outside of that, you didn't see a lot of college wrestling. There were some big names that have popped up over the years, and there are some definite heroes in college wrestling that are more well-known than others. But in general, college wrestling wasn't highly supported in the United States. So the audience wasn't exactly ready for it, but they did get ready for it, And when Hoist came in and fought those guys, that was a martial arts tournament, and that was a proving of different styles. And we found out real quick some styles were better than others. And then as the events grew, people watching it, starting coaches and other martial artists and just dudes that wanted to fight, started taking note. And it became this experiment where every show, UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3, look at the difference between UFC 1 and UFC 5. Just the development of the styles and the fighting. And that was because they kept doing it, and people started really paying attention, and the art started growing beyond what the martial arts Brazilian jiu-jitsu boundary was. And so things started happening as a result of real fighting. And whether you want to say like real fighting doesn't have rounds, and well, they didn't have rounds then either, and they didn't wear gloves either. It all started like that, and it progressed, and we see what those fights were like. And it started progressing, and changes came in, obviously, but the styles of fighting started changing and growing. And I would venture to say that jiu-jitsu grew because people started understanding, like, yeah, here's how you can play jiu-jitsu off your back against a guy who's not experienced with ground and pound, doesn't know where the traps are, has never really been on the ground with anybody. Yeah, okay, we see how that works. But what about the guy that does know what's up? What about the guy that has good submission defense and is used to being in guard and ground and pounding? How do you deal with that guy when you're on the ground? So there were changes in the game that happened. It's just the classically defined jiu-jitsu wasn't totally open enough for all those changes. And there were a lot of things that were in there already, for sure. I'm not like, I love jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong. But then it became like more sports. It's like, well, that's not jiu-jitsu because we don't have that in the jiu-jitsu box. That's sports, right? But I guess that's a natural way for it to go. But it's still a martial art. So anyway, I said all that to say they are great martial artists. I was happy to give them their brown belts. We had a great time. What did we do that? Oh, we went over to my good buddy Dave Sand's house, and Dave is the host of Food Origins podcast. Man, I'm having trouble remembering things today. Food Origins podcast. He does a great job with that. You should check that out if you haven't checked that out. And I met him at Metamoris 1, and we hung out. We got to know each other, and we both ended up at the after party, which was wild, because we were pretty much the only sober people at the after party. But that was a cool experience. We chat about a lot, and we've become good friends over the years. And he's a real good dude. We went over to his house after the promotions, and he made some food for us, and we had some Vietnamese sandwiches and some chicken, and it was just like freaking great. He's a great chef. He's awesome. That was his first kind of profession, I guess you could say. And then he went into other work for quite a while, and then got out of that, and then realized like he had a passion for cooking, and he's amazing at it. I've learned a lot from him. And so he picked that up again. So he had us all over, and we got to grub, man. And it was a great time. Sunday morning, I met with my pops, a couple of my other cousins. We had a nice little breakfast, and I left my damn credit card at the restaurant. The restaurant would not answer their phone. I'm calling on my way to the Sacramento airport because I don't want to miss my flight. I actually scratch that. I didn't realize I lost it till I was getting gas because I had to refuel the Toro, and ended up in a pinch there. Luckily I had another credit card, but it's just a real hassle, so I had to cancel that. Restaurant wouldn't. It's probably at the restaurant. They wouldn't answer their damn phone. Got on a plane, got back home, hit the ground running Monday morning. Bam, bam, bam. Worked all week, just teaching classes, doing all the shit that I got to do. And then jumped on a plane early Saturday morning out for Las Vegas bound. And, by this time, I'm feeling a little bit run down, just a little bit. I'm kind of just tired, and I'm thinking to myself, probably what this is me just being tired, and I'm just feeling run down. Once I get there and get around the energy of the team and get the production stuff set up and really start planning out the shows and all that kind of stuff, like, I'm going to be energized. I'm going to feel good. And that was true for the most part. Like the first day, got out there Saturday, checked into the hotel, met up with the team, kind of chilled out that night. Sunday rolled around. We had an early call time. Saturday night we went to the venue, and we kind of checked that out, hung out with everybody. Some of the guys were coming in to check their weight. Just did all the like family reunion kind of stuff. The PGF crew's really tight. And I would say just about everybody on the team, I don't know of any situations where people don't like each other or there's some kind of beef. Maybe there's past beef, but I don't know of any kind of like present beef. So they're a real solid group of people, and they're all very like-minded in that one, they want to create something amazing, and they want to create something new, and they want it to be special, and they want it to please them, and they want it to please the audience. So you have that like-mindedness of people. Now, on top of that, they're all hardworking and willing to help. Very versatile crew. most of those people can wear many hats. They can jump back and forth, and sometimes they do. I really like that. That's appealing to me. I'm that kind of person. I don't like to just sit around and not do anything. If I see dudes moving chairs, then I'm going to grab a chair and move it. I was just raised that way. If people are moving tables, I'm moving a table. If you're cleaning the mats and I'm at your gym, I'm going to grab the mop. Like, I'm just, I'm wired that way. And it served me well. So we're hanging out there, kind of going through the process. We come in Sunday morning for the draft. We do our draft pre-show, which was kind of good just to like knock the rust off. Raph Esparza, my partner on the bullpen, and Kevin Sherrill, our other partner, who's actually the permanent third chair now. Congrats, Kevin. We do shows every week on the bullpen, generally on Fridays. And we're all in different locations. We're all in different time zones. Okay. So, but we do them, and there's good chemistry, and we're used to it, and it helps keep the muscle strong. But there is a boost or a synergy that you get when you're all together in the same room. When I can just look to my left and I can see Kevin and I can see Raph, and my peripherals are picking up their movements, their posture, their body language. Just, I'm not a big energy guy, because most energy people are shitheads, and they use energy to justify their terrible behavior of other people and their stupid feelings. But you can pick up on their energy. And so that makes for a better rapport and a better communication between the host. And then that translates over to the audience. And Raph is a real professional, and he can give you instant feedback. And I have come to really value that kind of feedback, because if you're doing something that you could do better, and then you get that feedback live, or, obviously he doesn't interrupt the show and go like, you fucked up, you need to do it like this. But, after every show, we just huddle up for 5-6 minutes right before we kind of break off, and we'll just run through it. Like, this was good. You hit that. You need to work on this. Guys, remember, blah, blah, blah. And then he asks us like any feedback, and he's very open to feedback. Like, he's not a tyrant. He really wants to put out a great product, and he's been banging away in jiu-jitsu forever. Longer. To my chagrin, he started the podcast 3 weeks. He started Verbal Tap like 3 weeks before I started Inside BJJ, the podcast version. I did have the print version, but I don't know if that exactly counts. That was the old days. I wish I could find that on the Wayback Machine. I really do. That would be neat to have. I wish I would have preserved it. But we got through the draft. We did the post show, and we did a new segment that we've been practicing, which is Jiu-Jitsu Court. We might have called it PGF Court. Basically what that is we get a topic, and Kevin argues one side and I argue the other. We have opening statements, cross-examination, and then closing statements. And Raph presides over it as the judge. And Raph is a very skilled debater. He's got a lot of accolades in debate team. I think they were like, he might have been on the national team. They might have even been champions. I can't remember. I know he's the fantasy champion for PGF season 6 and season 7. And we'll talk about that in a second, but sorry, Kevin, you lose, Bolo. But he's very good at that. Gives us lots of feedback, kind of helps us organize our ideas when we get messed up. And he's also very petty, and that's perfect for a judge. He's like, he plays an intellectual, emotionally unstable, petty judge. He could come down real nice, or he can come down real hard. You can, sneeze the wrong way, and he's like, that's it, you lose, you're out. So we busted that segment out. We did it for the first time. We recorded a whole intro. We did it very People's Court-ish, which is got a big place in my heart. I watched People's Court for hours and hours and hours growing up. I love People's Court. I'll watch it right now, but I want to see the Judge Wapner version with the bailiff. I think his name was Rusty. That's what I want to see. I don't like the newer versions. Judge Judy, she's all right, but Judge Wapner was where it's at. So we did that. It went off real well. Had a really great time doing that, and so check those segments out. You can go to PGF World on YouTube on their channel. They have each day on there. It's also on Inside BJJ. It's also on the Grappling Hour YouTube accounts, and you could watch those pre and post shows and see those segments. There should be reels on the Instagram as well that have those. So if you check that out on Inside BJJ or Grappling Hour, Kevin Sherrill. Also, we have the Bullpen Live on Instagram. You could check that out. It's an account we're trying to build up for the Bullpen. So you should see more content coming out of there. Follow us. Like, give us some help, man. We've been plugging away for a minute. So Sunday's good. Monday's the kickoff. And immediately, it becomes clear that the 205ers are pacing and approaching this differently than in the past seasons. Now, I should say that after the draft on Sunday, there was a general feeling that First Form was going to run away with it. So the 4 teams were First Form, New Hope Regeneration, Intrana, and Constellation. Okay. And everyone kind of felt like it was First Form and then New Hope, Intrana, and Constellation were going to beat each other up for second place. That was the general feeling, and that's what we all kind of thought. Now, after day one, it still wasn't perfectly clear, but I don't think First Form put many points up, and I don't have them right in front of me, but I don't think they did. And so it was like, oh, okay, but New Hope put some points up on the board for sure. So we're kind of like, all right, we'll see how this plays out. As the week played out, it became very, very clear. And I'm trying to find the teams up here real quick. It became very clear that Intrana and Constellation and First Form were going to be beating each other up for second place because New Hope started running away with it. And it was pretty interesting to watch. I'm going to pull up these teams real quick on Smooth Comp. So we got through day one, got through day two. On Tuesday, I wanted to train. And the great thing about the PGF is that if you're on the production team, you can slide over to the venue and you walk in, and I'm not kidding you. I walk in and there's Hodger Gracie. There's, a bunch of the competitors that are on the teams. There's Jeff Glover. There's a bunch of dudes, a bunch of names, bunch of like high level dudes. And I'm like, damn, what a cool open mat. Now, originally I was going to go there with my homie, Andrew Foster, Drew Darce. Check him out. He's got a lot of cool content out there. And he also has the Neon Belly podcast. That's Neon. And I did an episode with him not too long ago. So check it out. Give him a follow. He's got great content. He's a super nice guy. He's in my list of best friends in jiu-jitsu. He's a really, really good dude. I got to spend season 6 with him. We had to share bunk beds, which I've told that story before. And in season 7, we were rooming together at our hotel. So on Tuesday morning, we both got up and we're like, hey, let's go down there and roll. Now, when we first got there, the main mats, it was mostly like a bunch of gi stuff going on. So Andrew and I just slipped to the back where the warm-up mats are, and we were just doing no gi. We were training, and there wasn't that many people there when we arrived. But after about 40 minutes, we looked outside and peeked out from behind the curtain, and it was packed with people. And Hodger Gracie was there, and Pedro Sauer was there, and freaking Jeff Glove, all these dudes, man. Just all these dudes that I am a super fan of and have been watching my entire jiu-jitsu experience. So Drew and I were like, we got to get out there and train. So we jumped out there, man, and we started training. and it was awesome. I had a great time on Tuesday morning. I really did, man. It was one of my jujitsu highlight moments in my life, and I got to train with Jeff Glover, which was a real treat for me. I have watched so many Jeff Glover videos over the years that to get to roll with him was just a great experience. It was just fun. Like, I've met a lot of dudes and I've trained with a lot of people, but sometimes these are dudes that are just really good, but I don't really, they just got good, and I'm a fan of them, and just okay. And there's some dudes that I've been watching the whole time, and Jeff was one of those guys in California, especially on the California scene, on the West Coast scene, and especially in the Nogi world, when Nogi wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, it's big now, but it used to never be. Almost every gym has a Nogi class now, even if it's just like once on Tuesday night. Almost every gym has at least one. Back then, they were way harder to find. And the Nogi tournaments were like, you had Grappler's Quest and you had Naga, and that was it. And you might have some one-off thing somewhere, but those were the two, as far as I can remember, those are the two largest ones. IBJJF wasn't running Nogi tournaments. There were no others. There wasn't like Fuji and this and that and Fight to none of that stuff existed. And so Jeff, and also the other dude was Bill Cooper. Those two guys were real big names, and they were just blowing that scene up in California. And there used to be these, and you could probably still find them, these like Jeff Glover submission highlights. It was like a mixtape of just all this wild shit that he would do. And I used to just watch it as a white belt and go like, dude, how can somebody even move like that? I can't even do a sprawl correctly. I can't even break fall without being a total goober. Like, how can somebody even get that good? I couldn't even fathom it in my head. So when I saw Jeff, I was like, dude, you want to train? And he had a gi on. He actually said, oh, Tim, let's do some stand up. And he had a gi on and I didn't. And I'm like, well, I'm 46. I'm kind of old. Like, I don't do a ton of stand up, but I'll do some stand up, like train, And I said, hey, can I use your gi? And he's like, yeah, you could grab my gi. It's fine, man. So, hey, I'm going to grab the gi. I trained in the gi for 11 years. So I, started training with him, and he was very polite. He basically let me do all kinds of moves on him, and then he would counter a couple times, then let me do something. But it was still really awesome. And then he did like some Jeff Glover Matrix things, like da 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 da. I was like, that was fucking rad. So that was just a personal fanboy highlight for me that I got to do on Tuesday. We do the show on Tuesday. We do the post show, and somewhere halfway through the post show, I start getting this crazy pain in my lung. And I know this is probably not typical of getting sick, but I got this bad pain in my lung. And I'm like, man, this hurts. Like, oh, I'm having a hard time. Like, when I breathe, it wasn't asthma, because I have asthma and sometimes I use an inhaler, but it wasn't like that. So I just kind of dealt with it. I'm like, this kind of sucks, but whatever. I'll get through it. And we did the show, and I got attacked by the announcer, Stephen Aiken, I thought was a good guy, the Dream 10P. I thought he was a nice person. I like his accent. I feel like he's a very, I feel like he can be cast as nice Southern man, and just about any movie or play. And, he attacked me while I was at the production table, or I should say the table that we do for the show. I was on camera. We were live. It was mid-show. And the next thing I know, I'm getting jacked from behind. And he's not a small guy. He's a big dude. And he is very mean when he grapples. I don't know if you've seen his competitions and stuff. Not nice. Not nice. And he attacked me. He pulled me from behind. He raked over my face and my jaw and cranked on it. And I was in the beginning stages of battling as a courageous 46-year-old man, double black belt, one in the gi, one from Eddie Bravo. I'm just giving you my personal, like, Reddit. These are my Reddit stats. And I was battling bacterial pneumonia, and I didn't know it yet. And this man accosted me, and it was an attack on me physically. It was an attack on me mentally, and it was an attack on me spiritually, and it was an attack on all Italians. And so I was like, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is not cool. And then, of course, he ran off. Him and Isaac, the wandering grappler, ran off. And there was another parking lot incident, but I'm not going to get into that. I thought we put that behind us, but evidently we didn't. And so I started getting the chills that night, after the show had wrapped. And I was cold, man. And I had a suit jacket on and a shirt and slacks. And it wasn't really cold in Las Vegas. It was just mild. And I was just and I was inside the building, and I was just, man, I started shaking, just like crack withdrawal shaking, man. Like, oh my God, like you try to trade a cheeseburger for crack. That's how much I was just shaking. And so I carried this Ruka pullover with me in my backpack. It's like a windbreaker zip up. And so I put that thing on, man, and I covered up my head and I cinched it up tight, and I was just shaking, man. And they're like, hey, it's Ben's birthday today, and we want to get some drinks after the show. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I don't want to be a turd. I really like Ben. This is the same Ben that showed up when we were out in Vegas for ADCC CJI, and he challenged Kevin Sherrill to a fight. And Kevin, being the, quintessential high-level grappler that he is, said, how long have you been training? 6 months. I would love to have a match with you. And Kevin just accosted him in a very, very meaningful way. And I was planning on rolling with Ben on Wednesday morning because Ben rolled with Raph, Ben rolled with Kevin, and now I was like, Ben's going to roll with Tim, and then Ben's going to give his take on all three of us. That was the plan. And so I asked, sorry, the name's slipping out of my head. Octavio. Octavio is our producer, who runs all the behind the scenes stuff with Raph, and he's just top notch, man. He's a great dude. And he had his car, and the venue and the hotel are very close. And he had his car, and he's like, hey, man, you want to hitch a ride with me, or you just want to walk across the street? And I'm like, I'm going to hitch a ride with you. I get in his car, and I'm like, can I turn your heater on, man? I'm sorry. I'm shaking. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I ask him, like, hey, can you drop me off at the front of the hotel so I don't have to walk through the parking lot? I'm like, I'm not trying to be a diva, but dude, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And he's like, yeah. He brings me up to the front, and I'm like, where are we going to meet? We're going to meet at this bar downstairs in the hotel lobby or the casino, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I walk past the little general store that's there, and I go in and I get 2 Dayquil. I pop those Dayquil, go upstairs, change my clothes, put some warmer clothes on, come back downstairs. We meet up. I swear, man, martial arts, you don't have to be in a gi. You don't have to be talking about martial arts. It always attracts crazy people when there's a group of guys standing around the train. So we're standing outside this Chinese restaurant that's in the casino, and this was our little meetup spot. Inside is like Hodger and his whole crew of people, and they're eating, following the Gracie diet, of course. They're eating Chinese food, and we're standing outside right in front of the restaurant, but inside the casino waiting. I believe we're waiting for Kevin, and we're waiting for Raph. And Raph rolls up, and this dude stumbles up, this older gentleman. I want to say his name was was it Kevin? Maybe it was Keith. We're going to call him Keith. He rolls up, and he starts talking, and he sees one of the guys like do some kind of move on one of, jiu-jitsu guys standing around. They're always arm dragging, choking each other, bear hugs, battling for underhooks, trying to get a low single. It's just what happens. This is how we express our love for each other. And so this dude sees it. He comes up and he's kind of like, oh, you guys, tough guys, and blah, blah, blah. And he's wasted. He is wasted. He's wandering through the casino and he's looking for friends. He's looking for friends. He's looking for dudes to hang out with, whatever that means. So he goes, oh yeah, man, you ever see one of these? And he pulls out this coin. And at first I'm like, what is this dude going to pull out? Like, is he going to try to sell us something? This is a rare diamond. He's got this coin and it's a challenge coin. And a challenge coin is generally something that you're given by someone who views you as like a special friend or somebody who goes way back to a particular moment, or you achieved some particular accomplishment. They're not super common, but they are out there, and you're supposed to take it as it's a very personal. It's not like you get an award at an award show. It's like a person to person thing, and it's very meaningful. Like it's a big deal. Someone gives you a challenge coin. It means something. It's a personal thing. And so you generally don't carry them around in your pocket and take them out and show them to people, but this guy took it out. He shows to us. We're like, what is that? It's a challenge coin. What'd you get it for? Navy SEALs. It's like, oh, okay. That's cool. And then he proceeds to tell us all the things he did in the SEALs. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. My experience is that, guys, and I could be wrong. I might be wrong. The guys that I've known that were in, say, special operations type things in the military generally don't divulge that information in the first 5 minutes that you talk to them. That's my experience. So I wasn't sure, but we humored the guy. And then he's like, well, where are we drinking tonight, boys? The first round's on me. And we're like, oh no, we're just trying to have a beer with Ben, do our planning for the next day, because the night before we always kind of plan the board for the next day. So we get through that, and Raph goes away. He comes back and he's like, okay, guys, here's the deal. Kevin's not feeling well. We're going to meet up in my room. So let's rendezvous in about 10 minutes. And then he goes, follow me. And he just starts walking the opposite way of his room. And everyone's just like, oh, Raph is pulling a swerve. He's basically being bad boss right now in front of this dude so we can get away from him. So the guy wanders off. We go sit down in the bar. And I get through it. I get a beer in me. Alcohol kind of relaxes me a little bit and makes me stop thinking about the fact that I feel like shit. Congratulations, Ben. We love you, man. We'll see you tomorrow. And I go home Tuesday night. Drew's there at the room, and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling good, dude. I don't know what's going on. I apologize. Like, nobody wants to room with somebody that's getting sick. That sucks. That really sucks. And so I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. All night, fever dreams, out of it. Can't keep my body temperature regulated. Too hot, too cold, too hot, too cold. So I get up Wednesday morning and I'm like, there's this IV clinic around the corner for all these drunkards who go to Vegas and get wasted and wake up with terrible hangovers. I'm so judgy. I've been that person. So I go, I'm going to go get an IV. I'm going to get topped off, and maybe I'm just feeling run down. I've been traveling a lot, been on the go, not sleeping very much. So I go to the IV clinic. They take my blood pressure. They're like, your blood pressure is too high right now. We can't give you an IV. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay, I'm probably sick. Like, something's not right. So I tell the lady, like, I got good blood pressure. Like, I'm a coach and I train a lot. Like, I'm good. Your machine's probably not working. And she's like, yeah, you're probably right. Come on in. So she's like, they give me the menu, and I'm like, I want the max dose that I can get legally or illegally, if you're willing to do that, legally under the law for like ever. I need all of it. I need all of it. If you could put the Holy Spirit in there in IV form and give it to me in my veins, I want that too. I want all of it. I want to be brought back to life. So I get my IV and I felt pretty good. Like it gave me a boost. And I'm like, I'm going to be able to get through this. Like this, I think I pulled it off. I go do Wednesday pre-show. I sit down, start taking notes on the event for the post-show. And dude, reality came back. Pneumonia's like, nah, bitch, I ain't no pussy like that. No IV gonna take me out. You need antibiotics. And so, man, halfway through the show, Raph comes over to me and he goes, hey, you look terrible. Like, you look terrible. I think you should go back to the room and rest. Come back in a couple hours and we'll wrap up. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I want to be here. I'm here to work and I want to work. I'm a working dog. I need work. So I'm like, I think you're right. I go back home, go back to the room, get in bed, and I'm in bed for 3 days. It is a 72-hour cycle of fever dreams, me stumbling to the vending machine to get Gatorade, me coming back to the room, Drew checking on me, homie, are you all right? And me sending texts to Raph and Kevin saying, guys, I'm not going to make it today. Guys, I'm not going to make it tonight. Guys, I'm not going to make it today. I missed the whole thing. Thursday night, I missed the team, the wrap up of all the team championships. Friday, I missed the complete show, the whole thing. And on Friday, my focus is I got to get on a freaking airplane Saturday morning and fly across the country. Saturday evening, actually. My flight didn't leave till 6. Now, luckily, Drew had the room until like Monday. So I'm just like, homie, I'm just going to like rest the whole time. And everything zeroes in on what do I got to do to get myself home? Because I was sweating through 3 changes of clothes in a night. Like it was really bad. I was all over the place. And I was concerned that the airport would take one look at me like, nah, dog, you ain't getting on an airplane. So I took a long time, but I went really slow and I packed up all my shit. And I had a lot because you got to bring suits and dress clothes for 6 days, and you're going on camera. So you're not trying to rewear the same shit. And on top of that, if you wanted to grapple, you had to bring grappling gear. And then you got to bring a couple pair of street clothes. You got to like have some regular shit. You're not in your dress clothes the whole time. And so anyway, I had a lot of shit and I got it packed up. I got everything ready ahead of time. I got it all I had to do was grab it and walk out. And I just rested, took Dayquil, drank Gatorade, drank Sorry salt. I also did drink salt, but I actually drank all of the salt that I had. And I'm like, man, I was getting texts like, dude, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with you? I texted Brandon. I'm like, I'm sorry I let you guys down, man. I'm ready to die. And everybody was very understanding. They're like, nah, dude, like, you could die. So just relax. Like, you're fine. So I get on the plane. I fly to Nashville. And of course, I'm sat next to a dude that is a little bigger than his seat. And I have to feel him spill over onto me the entire flight, which in the beginning I was freezing cold. I didn't mind. Then I got super hot. And so that really sucked. Get into Nashville like 11:30 at night. And I'm waiting for my luggage. And of course, this is how it is. My bags are the last bags to come out on the conveyor. So I'm standing there trying to be patient, feeling terrible, like 103-degree fever, waiting for my bags and waiting for my bags. And my wife is circling. Are they there yet? Are they there yet? Are they there yet? No. Finally, I get home, out of it all night Sunday night, get up on Monday, and I'm like, something's not right. Tried to do some work on Monday, couldn't pull it off. I go to the doctor's on Tuesday. I'm like, I'm jacked up. I got to go to the doctor. I make an appointment with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's everywhere out here, which is great medical organization, great college. Medical care is a much better experience in Tennessee than it was in California. If you got a bunch of money in California, it's probably not bad, but it's not that great either. So what they got going on out here, maybe this is in other parts of the country too, but many of the Walgreens out here have Vanderbilt clinics built into them. So when you're trying to get in to see your doctor, if they don't have an appointment that day, they give you a list of places that have openings. You can just pick one of those and go. So I'm like, well, I'm going to Walgreens. It's close, and they got an appointment at 3. So I looked at it, and, I live in Franklin, Tennessee, which is a great town. It's not super big. It's pretty easy to get around. And I looked at the map, and I'm like, oh, I know where that's at. So I head over there, and I'm waiting in the back of Walgreens where I think this clinic is, because they're bringing patients in. This is not a clinic, though. This is a lab. I didn't realize this, and I'm out of it. I'm like super duper sick at this point. And so I go up to the pharmacy, and I'm like, I have an appointment to see a doctor here. And the pharmacist lady is like a super bitch about it. We don't know none of that. We don't do the dead. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But I'm feeling really ill, and I'm not sure what to do. And she's like, don't go over there, and don't do this, and don't do that. And we don't know what to tell you. And blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God, this lady. Well, the lab tech kind of sees this go down, and she comes over to me, and she's like, are you here for like a Vanderbilt appointment? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, no, this is just a laboratory. I think you're in the wrong spot. Sure enough, make a phone call. I realize I am indeed in the wrong spot. So I got to haul ass over to the real location because I'm just about ready to miss the appointment. So I jam over there. I get in. Doctor takes one look at me. She's like, you have pneumonia. Now you got to go get an x-ray, but I'm positive you have pneumonia. I'm like, great. I'm supposed to fly out to California in 6 days. Is that still on the table? She's like, no, it's not on the table. That's a terrible idea, and you should cancel it if you can. I'm supposed to do commentary for Subversive. And I'm just like, damn. All right, I'm going to have to shut it down. Like, I have to actually shut it down right now. So I go get my lung x-ray. Of course, you got pneumonia. Doctor gives me a load of antibiotics, like a ridiculous amount. I start taking them. I don't feel better until probably 2 days after taking the antibiotics. And I was just sick the entire time, like laying on the couch, watching documentaries. I watched a lot of documentaries. Couldn't get much work in. Couldn't do the bullpen show. Couldn't teach classes. I was pretty useless, to be honest with you. Started finally feeling better probably last Saturday. Got a little bit of junk in my lungs still, but I did manage to get like some rounds in last week training. Obviously not contagious anymore, but definitely feeling better. But man, it really, really kicked my ass. And I felt terrible that I had to miss Subversive. I was really looking forward to going to Subversive. I like working with Raph. And had to cancel on those guys. My apologies. Raph pulled it off amazingly. He's multi-talented, so he can run the production and he can do play-by-play. He did the press conference. And, of course, there's always technical difficulties that he's got to work through. He worked through all those. So hats off to him, man. Check out Subversive on YouTube, and it's Subvrsiv. There is no E on the end. That would be Subversive Fight Club. They had a nice event out there. And that they do a mix of sub only and also combat jiu-jitsu rules. And in their overtime for combat jiu-jitsu, there's no submissions. Like you have to TKO the dude, which is wild. So had to miss that. Finally made a comeback. Was able to do a pretty good show. A good friend of mine from way back in the day, Dave Pearson, hosts a podcast called Grapplers Talk Podcast. and that's out of Stockton. And I had hit him up when I made my Stockton trip out there. I was going to try to swing by and do it live, but it didn't work out. So we rescheduled and we got that in. So you could find that if you go to Grapplers Talk on Spotify, you can find that. I had a chance to kind of go back through my history and kind of the gyms that I trained at and the businesses that I started. And we talk a lot about the podcast and how that started up and stuff. So that was a pretty fun time. So I'm back. I'm feeling good. We had a great Thanksgiving. I made a feast for Thanksgiving. Like I really enjoy cooking, and I hadn't had the chance to cook in a while. So it's like Thanksgiving's coming up. I made 2 lasagnas. I made chicken nochi. Thanks, Dave, my good homie from Food Origins. We used to go to this restaurant in San Francisco. I think it's called Jackson Fillmore. Yeah, Jackson Fillmore. It's on the corner of Jackson and Fillmore in San Francisco. It's fantastic food. They make my favorite dish of all time. They're the chicken nochi. And I just kept telling Dave, it's so good. It's so good. And he would always get carbonara. So he switched it up and he's like, oh my God, that's good. I'm like, I want to know how to make that. So Dave actually talked to the owner and he kind of hawed around, little this, little that, little this, little that, didn't really give it to him. So Dave just kind of peeped in on the kitchen one day because the bathroom's like in this small, it's like a house. In the bathroom, you have to walk through the kitchen on the side to get to the restroom. So he just kind of lingered there and he watched the chef make the dish. And he called me. He's like, I got it. That was one of the things we kind of cooked together over COVID. We do these remote cooking on Zoom. And that was one of the dishes we made. So I made a big batch of that. Ribeyes on the grill, sweet corn, garlic mashed potatoes. One of our friends out here does a fundraiser for the Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt every year, and they smoke turkeys in this huge turkey smoker in their backyard. And then if you donate, like, I don't know, there's a certain amount, $70 or $100, you get this whole smoked turkey. So we had that for our turkey, and it was a feast, man. We had some cool people over. You know, when you're new to an area, we've only been here for 3 years. We don't have a lot of family. My wife's family that does live out here were out of town for Thanksgiving. So we're like, what are we going to do? First, we're going to go out of town. And we're like, fuck it. Let's just have a feast here. And let's just invite people over that don't have anything to do or that are not doing anything or don't have family out here. And so we had a nice mix of people who probably were not going to do anything that day, so they came through and I made like 3 times too much food. Literally, like, we had so much food. It didn't even look like we put a dent in it after the first pass, but that worked out fine. We sent everyone home with leftovers and had a really nice, good, like, relaxing Thanksgiving. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. And I got to scratch that itch for cooking. So that was kind of cool. On Friday, chilled, man, slept in, had a great day. Last night or yesterday, we went and saw the new Gladiator movie. That was pretty good, but I'm a little disappointed in the fighting scenes. There's like no submissions, like none. Nobody did anything. I'm used to seeing at least an arm bar or like a Kimura throw or a triangle, something. There was like nothing. So I was a little disappointed in that, but overall the movie was pretty good. So, man, that's my catch up. I wanted to just get something in today. I'm down in the studio and I haven't checked in a while, so I wanted to do that. Make sure you guys support our sponsors. Check out Salt Electrolytes. Use the discount code inside BJJ15. Save 15%. Please check out the bullpen. It is live on YouTube, generally on Fridays. You could check out my Instagram or the Grappling Hour Instagram to stay live with that. It gets broadcast on Grappling Hour Instagram, Grappling Hour YouTube, Inside BJJ YouTube. We try to pump it out everywhere that we can. So check that out. Check out my homie Drew Foster's podcast, Neon Belly. He's got great guests, great content, and they're not like crazy long. They're good sized pieces that you could listen to it in a car ride, or while you're going to the store or something like that. Easy listening. And check me out on Grapplers Talk podcast with David Pearson. You could find him at Grapplers Talk on Spotify. Stay tuned for more Inside BJJ content. PGF Season 8 was just announced. It's coming up, I believe, in the end of March. So super stoked to do that. You should hear more news going forward. Next week, you have Fight Pass Invitational 9, which has got some great matchups on it. Namely, Mikey Musumici's making his big debut for the UFC. And we also have Who's Number 125, I believe, on Wednesday night, the night before. And there's some big names on that. Roberto Jimenez and Keenan Duarte are the marquee matchup. So check out Grappling, man. There's a lot of things going on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll catch you next time on Inside BJJ.